Okay, everyone, I think I'm finally ready to unpack this story. Survivor Indonesia. Okay, I have my little notes right here to remember everything. Okay, so some of you don't know. Originally, I was supposed to be coming over here to Jakarta, Indonesia, and I was going to be meeting a contact and looking at a school and teaching, at a school here in Jakarta. It was SAT prep and English was what I was teaching. So anyway, when you're teaching English overseas, you hear a lot of different advice. Some people will tell you it's important that you have a contact, you sign a contract before you get there. Other people will tell you it's best to just show up in the country, not have an employer, not have a school, and to, look around and, find a place to live and, just hit the pavement and see if you can find a job, during that first, 30, 45 days or whatever, because usually it depends on your visa. You just can't like chill out in another country. You have to stay there on a visa. Other people will say, okay, start the visa process in the States or wherever you're at, and then, once you arrive, then you can sign the contract and, go ahead and accept the position. So anyway, for me, I was committed. I already decided, okay, this is what I want to do. I want this experience. I want to, go over to Indonesia, or it really didn't matter if it was Indonesia or another country. I'd already decided that I was going to take this leap and just put myself out there and go after this experience. So it just so happened, some of you, like I said, you might know this story, but I'll just give you a little background. I ended up meeting this guy. I'm going to call him SKB. And I ended up meeting this guy. He was in my certification program in Berkeley. He was from South Korea originally, and he had been living in Indonesia for 10 years. And he also, had been to the United States before. He traveled to New York City and some other places, and been, to a lot of places in Europe. So he was, very well traveled. And he spent 1 year at University of California, Berkeley, taking some courses to help, learn more about teaching English as a foreign language. And that's how I met him. So we spent a good month together every weekend from about 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturdays and Sundays. After the course was over, we also, I went to his house in Berkeley, met his wife, met his 2 kids, and that's really where he first really was talking about the positions he had available at his school for teachers. And even during the course, he spoke, very highly of his school, and he was very smart. He had a lot to add into the class discussions, very engaged into, the way we were being, taught and everything. We bonded because, of course, I was like, oh my gosh, Indonesia, how close are you to Bali? That's a place I've always wanted to go to, just for the longest time. Just a spiritual, beautiful, mystical type of place. A lot of yogis are there, a lot of meditation. The nature is just like out of control, beautiful energy. So anyway, that's what we bonded up on, that he lived near Bali. And then again, after the course was over, we had this, we were going to have a barbecue at his house. I was actually organizing it with our classmates, but then we just decided all to go out to eat. So while I was at his house, in California, that's when he was really having a conversation with this young white American guy, and there's a reason I say that. We'll get to that later. Telling him about his school and telling him about life in Indonesia. And really, that's when I really started to really become curious and think, maybe I should go there. I was very attracted to the fact that it was very centrally located. It's like an hour from Bali, by plane, an hour or 2 by plane from to Singapore, to Malaysia. I think it's like 4 or 5 hours from Australia, 8 hours from New Zealand, very close to Thailand, very close to Vietnam, Cambodia, East Timor. all these places. So I was like, wow, that sounds really cool. Originally, I was thinking of going to Japan, but Japan it's a little bit more isolated. You just can't hop over to different countries and travel as extensively. So anyway, I started doing my research, and he really originally was offering this position to this other guy that was in my class. We'll call him G, Mr. G. We'll call him Mr. G. And so, Mr. G was a high school teacher, but during the meeting, I had a feeling that he wasn't really going to accept this position. It was just the vibe I got. But anyway, it didn't matter to me because I was already like sold on Indonesia. I'm like, yeah, this sounds pretty cool. So anyway, I went ahead and I started doing my research, and I contacted the job placement counselor through the company where I was certified, and they did have one school in Indonesia, but it was in another city. It wasn't in Jakarta. And this city, it just wasn't too much there, I heard. Jakarta is a very metropolitan international city. There's people from all over the world here, people from all over Asia, that live here, the immigrants here, as well as people from New Zealand, Australia, Europe, United States. So, you get a little bit of everybody. Anyway, there's a whole reason why I'm giving you this background, so just stick with me. So anyway, I decided I didn't want to go to this other school because it wasn't, there was nothing happening there. So then I think during that time, I had actually emailed SKB. He was back in Indonesia. He left the United States with his family, went back to Indonesia. And I was asking him about the city. I think even he was the one who was telling me there wasn't too much there. And I looked too as well, like on the internet and stuff. So when he heard, that I was really being aggressive and very interested in coming to Indonesia, that's when he said, send me your resume, because we're going to be accepting people on a rolling basis. So I said, okay. So I sent him my resume. Of course, I was qualified for the position. I had a lot to offer the school and everything. And then it turns out Mr. G, I guess, didn't want the position. Shocker. So, excuse me. So anyway, SKB and I proceeded to talk. And I remember when I was at his house, he had made the comment that, if you're interested in coming over to Indonesia, give it a month because people need an adjustment period. If at the end of the month you don't think you're interested, then that's fine. No love lost. Everyone can go in their separate ways, and it's not a big deal. And then he outlined different things that would be presented in a package for Indonesia. So when we started communicating and everything, I noticed he was saying his school is not just focused on teaching English as a foreign language. They're really a test prep school that focuses on the SAT for high school and college students. So I decided, okay, that's not something I'm trained in. Obviously he was in the class with me, and he said, that's okay. I'm going to teach you if you're open to learning. I can teach you what you need to know. The students are great. And, send me an essay and tell me why you want to teach here. And can you send me a video and, all of this other stuff. So, of course, I did it. I followed the application process. And, in the meantime, I was in communication with the job counselor with the program where I was certified. So, long story short, I get to Indonesia, and it turns out to be an effing nightmare. And I would be like terribly inauthentic to just gloss over and breeze over this chapter in my Indonesian adventures, because I was going back and forth like, is this going to be a Debbie Downer or too negative? But if this can help somebody out there, fantastic. And really, at the end of the day, it's my story. I do want to get to like fun, fluffy stuff like photos and, reviewing restaurants and talking to locals and doing interviews, and all that will come. But, in the meantime, this was part of my journey, and this is part of my story, and I'm going to share it. So, continue to watch the videos, and this is part 1 of Survivor Indonesia.